All right, y'all. I've seen enough. Enough is enough. I want to see Carrie and Jabari in handcuffs immediately.
They say this is a big rich town. I just come from the poet's part. Bright light, city life, I gotta make it. This is where it goes down. I just happen to come up hard. Legal or illegal, baby, I never took a straight cab
to the Power Post Show, coming in for episode 5, the mid-season finale of Power Book 2, Ghost. So, man, this episode was a banger, man. I said at the beginning of my little intro that I want to see Carrie and Jabari in some jumpsuits with handcuffs. Now, their actions in this episode are not that serious. Maybe fireable offense. They need to be fired. But I still want to see them in handcuffs. We're going to talk about that tonight. But I asked myself one question at the end of this episode. Do I want Tariq to win? I don't know. I need to see some more episodes. I need to see the second half. But I think I might want Tariq to win. But he did get caught lacking in this episode. Very much. Oh my goodness. Tariq, his intelligence is the one thing that he has actually working for him. And we knew he was going to mess up at some point in this series. But he messed up bad in this episode. We're going to talk about it. What else we got on the docket here? Drew, you're going to be all right, man. We're going to talk about it. But speaking of Drew, that was the major plot point of last week's episode 4, which did great. I think it's like at 2,000 something views right now. Hey, that's good for me. I'm a small YouTuber, so that is great. But yeah, let's try to beat that this time. At least 3,000 this week. So we'll see. But yeah, last week's review was great. A lot of y'all chimed in the comments. A lot of it was about Drew and, him basically coming out or whatever. And yeah, the comments were popping. A lot of y'all was like, y'all gonna not a lot of y'all were basically like, I'm gonna get rid of my Star subscription. Y'all ain't getting rid of y'all Star subscription, man. The same people that saying they're gonna get rid of their Netflix subscription because of Cuties, y'all ain't getting rid of nothing. Cuties review. I did that. I did a review on that, by the way, on the last Catch Up podcast. So if y'all haven't went to see that yet, shameless plug, Catch Up podcast number 13, Cuties review, Detroit 2 album review. A fun topic for me, is Webby a legend? So for all my people in the South, you might want to tune in for that one. And some more stuff as well. So go tune into that if you haven't already. The Catch Up podcast number 13. So Drew, the whole, he's gay. Okay. We passed that now. Anything else? Sax finally has his smoking gun. And Davis, when it is said that he will, in his character description, it says he will do anything to win. And at the end of this episode, we find out exactly what that means. So we're going to talk about, this was an awesome episode. So let's go ahead and get into it, guys. Okay, so we start this episode with a dream sequence. It kind of messed me up at first because I'm like, okay, Tasha, she's like in street clothes. She's sitting at the dinner table with the family or whatever. And I'm thinking like it's a flashback and maybe it's going to be his 17th birthday. Because in this episode is Tariq's birthday. Happy birthday, Tariq. You had one hell of an 18th birthday party. Let's just say that. But we're going to talk about it. So I'm thinking, okay, this is a flashback scene. But it's not a flashback scene. It turns out to be a dream sequence because Raina pops up, and of course Raina is dead. But they kind of surprised me with that. I didn't think Raina would make a, posthumous appearance, so to say, in this dream sequence or whatever. And yeah, so Tasha wakes up from her dream, and then she calls Tariq in real life and wishes him a happy 18th birthday. He can't stay on the phone long because Kane's creeping around, so he has to hop in the car with Kane to meet up with Mo because Mo wants to meet up with him. Okay, so before we get to his meeting with Monet, she's having a conversation with Diana, and she's basically telling her about the game and how basically, how to control men. That's what I kind of got from the conversation. And from this, we learned that Diana actually knows that Ramirez is sleeping with Monet. I did not know that at all. They just popped that out of nowhere. I just assumed nobody knew about it. Kane doesn't know. We know that. Kane doesn't know. As far as he knows, he's just given her information or whatever. But later on in the next scene, him and Tariq are talking, and Tariq brings this up as well. So what he's basically like, "What's up with Ramirez?" And the fun thing about this scene was when he asked him about how much. I think he said something like, "It's gotta cost a lot to keep him on the payroll. So how much does it cost as far as to giving them information and stuff like that?" And then Kane couldn't do nothing but just sit there and just look like he didn't know anything. And that goes back to last episode where Monet was basically telling him like, "Hey, your job is to just be the heavy hitter. Your job is not to think." So you can see it's kind of bothering Kane. And, from last episode, I think Kane wants to be more than just, the enforcer of the family. That's what I'm starting to get the feel of. And I mean, I could possibly see these two. I'm making a prediction right now. Kane is going to kill Mo, I think. So I don't know. We'll see. And then him and Tariq might have something in common that finally will bind them together. That they kill both their parents. I don't know. That's just a prediction for me. But right now, him and Monet have been getting into it, and they haven't been seeing eye to eye. So, we're just going to leave that right there. We get to the scene where Kane brings Tariq to Mo, and Mo is basically trying to figure out some more information as far as who is Drew talking to. She wants to know who's not the painting, but the drawing that he drew. And she figures Tariq knows, and then Tariq is basically like, "Nah, you need to ask Zeke." But even though he still knows who it is, but he basically tells her to get this information through Zeke. And she's like, "Yeah, okay." But she knows what Tariq is basically up to. And we just kind of find out this whole time that Mo is really testing Tariq. But there is a small argument that Kane and Monet get into. And he mentions that she's starting to bring a lot of outsiders into the family. Kane does. And with Ramirez and now Tariq working for the family and things of that nature. So once again, more friction between Kane and Monet, and also Kane and Tariq, because Kane is kind of getting jealous because Monique is starting to kind of welcome Tariq into the family a little bit more. So yeah, that's happening. In the next scene, we get Tariq and Sax, and we get another plot point within this episode as far as Tamika taking the stand and having to give her testimony against Sax. And this is problems for Tasha and Tariq as well, because Tariq saw Sax at Truth, and Sax told Tamika this information, and if she tells this information, it's going to implicate Tariq as well. So they have to find a way to kind of shut her down from not testifying. So that's another plot point in the, episode. Then we get another scene with Sax and Riley, who should also be in a jumpsuit because she caused all kinds of hell this episode, and she led to the downfall of Tariq, man. Riley. I think I called her like Haley in the last review. So yeah, I wrote a name down this time. Her name is Riley. Okay. So other than that, she's still trying to get some information from Brayden, and later on in the episode, she gets a whole lot of information, or at least she's responsible for, the big plot point in this episode, which I'll get to later on. All right, so once again, we get another scene where Tariq is running late to class, and this gets Jabari mad. He has this assignment that he has to turn in, like a 15-page paper. Then he says it was due at the beginning of class. Now it's a 25-page paper. And basically, he gave him the whole black men, we got to do better talk. And there was a scene where him and Jabari were talking one-on-one, and, it kind of triggered Tariq a little bit. It was kind of like, it kind of reminded him as far as Ghost basically lecturing him. That's what I kind of saw in this, sorry, in the mic. That's what I saw in this scene. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Do y'all think like Jabari could be a potential father figure for Tariq? He's already kind of trying to be his mentor. So do y'all see that? I just kind of thought about it, when he kind of just stormed off, and basically he was like, you're just like my father, and, trying to tell him stuff and all this stuff like that. So interesting scene. But yeah, Jabari, I want to see him in handcuffs. We're going to talk about it. I'm almost there. Okay, so in the next scene, okay, guys. All right, so in the next scene, not Drew, but Diana is talking with Tariq, and it's revealed that they all know that Drew is gay. So it's not a whole, my family doesn't know, everybody knows. So, and then she basically says that Monet is testing Tariq to see where his loyalties lie. Does his loyalty lie with Drew and keeping his secret and not telling her about the drawing, or who's in the drawing, or is his loyalty to her? So, I don't know if that was like a writing slip up. I don't know. I just found it kind of odd. It's like, okay, we all know, I don't know. I would have found it more interesting if they didn't know, and and it was some secret that he had to keep from everybody. But yeah, everybody knows. Okay, so in a couple scenes after this, Tariq meets back up with Jabari to give him his 25-page paper, which is going to be a very important in the later in the episode. But just keep that in mind. He gives him his 25-paper assignment or whatever, and he basically apologized for being late to class, and he says he won't be late to class anymore. So we gonna see in the second half of the season, is Tariq gonna be running late to class again? We gonna see if he can keep his word. But yeah, but speaking on the class thing, usually there has been a pattern in each episode where Tariq has a certain book to read, but I think they broke that pattern in this episode. There was no book that was focused on or anything like that. Jabbar was giving a lecture in class, but there was the title of the book was not mentioned or anything like that. So they kind of drifted away from that pattern that they've been going on with the books and literature and stuff like that. Okay, so in our next segment, Tasha is talking to Tariq, and she's basically making one last ditch effort to get Tamika off that stand because she does not want her to testify. And it's kind of implied that, do whatever you gotta do. Bang. So Tariq goes to see Tamika, and at one point during their conversation, he has the gun with him, and he's about to take it out until Davis arrives and interrupts the conversation. And Davis wants to talk to Tamika as well, and she's kind of acting weird when she gets to the door. So he's like, "Hey, who you got inside the house?" So he thinks Saxon's inside the house, and she's eventually lets him in, and Tariq sneaks out the back or whatever. So Tamika lives to see another day, but who knows? Tariq might come back for you. You never know. Anyway, but in this during their conversation, I forgot the whole reason why he got the gun out in the first place, because he was talking about Tommy. Once again, they bringing up this narrative about Tommy shooting ghosts. I wish they would stop this. Tommy needs to come back right now. Where is Tommy? He needs to come back right now and clear his name. I'm tired of people throwing dirt on Tommy's name, man. This is gonna stop immediately. This narrative has to die. All right. So, so she doesn't believe that. And then at this point, that's when Tariq gets the gun or whatever. But, we find out that he doesn't shoot her. And then from there, Tamika's like, hey, we got to talk about Tariq. All right. So back at the Cop House, Braden is throwing Tariq his 18th birthday party. And this is where everything goes left. Number one, because of Miss Riley, who's trying to get even more information out of Braden, and Braden is kind of catching on to him. He's like, why you keep asking me all this information about Tariq? You supposed to be my girl, right? You keep asking me about Tariq. So yeah, he gets mad. He walks off, and she finds this opportunity to spike his drink or whatever. She puts some type of drug in there to get him to, loosen up and tell her more information, except it doesn't work out to as she thinks is going to, as when Tariq arrives at the party. Braden welcomes him, and then he gives him his cup, and then he drinks out of his cup, and that's where everything just falls apart. But before I get into that, Drew was at the party as well, and he goes up to Everett, which is the guy he slept with in the last episode. And Everett is acting brand new on him. He like, what's up, bruh? Do I know you? I was like, oh man. Poor Drew. Okay, so as far as, is that relationship going to develop, or is that just kind of a one-time thing? I don't know. As far as the feedback with the whole gay scene, are the creators going to look back at that, or like, do we need to include more of this gay scenery in Power, or do we leave it alone? So we'll see what happens as far as that relationship goes. Are they going to push the envelope more? Are we going to see more like gay sex scenes in Power? So I don't know. We'll see. So Tariq and Lauren are back in the room, and they're about to make out or whatever. But Lauren really isn't feeling it, because Tariq is just all over the place. He drunk, he toasted, and he brought up the fact that he used to do lean, and I forgot all about this. And I remember he used to be so annoying when he was on lean. So I'm glad that little phase is over with. But yeah, the return of lean Tariq came back for one time during this series. But anyway, so he passes out and falls asleep. Lauren leaves the room, and this is where Riley comes in. She uses his phone to basically, I think she activates like the share location feature on your phone or whatever. So she knows his locations at all times. But yeah, this is where Tariq totally messed up. But we'll get back to that in a second. But on to the toxic adventures of Jabari and Carrie. And in this episode, Jabari is also trying to write his third novel. So he's having, writer's block or whatever, trying to write his novel. And remember when I said I want to see Jabari in handcuffs, or at least fired? He used the 25-page paper that Tariq brought him, and he plagiarized it. When he started typing, he used Tariq's paper, and oh my God, I'm like, this dude is trash. He is so trash. And Carrie's trash too. So let's go ahead. I'm skipping around a little bit, but let's go ahead and talk about it while we on it. While we on the toxic adventures of Carrie and Jabari. So Carrie, she goes off later in the episode and she's sitting by herself at some cafe or something. Zeke walks in, he's been trying to shoot his shot with her, and I'm thinking he's gonna fail again. And but no, he does not. He sees that Jabbar is trying to call Carrie, and then he puts his hand on the phone. He's like, man, come with me to the bathroom. And my guy Zeke, he got it. the big score, you know what I'm saying? So Carrie has sex with Zeke. I'm man, this rabbit hole is just getting worse and worse. But yeah, somebody needs to be fired. But I want to see him in handcuffs though. But yeah, Carrie and Jabari are trash. But Zeke, my guy, I can't even lie. You got one. Okay, so at this point, Tariq is finally getting ready to leave the party. He sees Diana one more time, who saw Drew and old boy sitting in the car early on, and they were talking about their problems, and he was basically like, you don't want people to know we, a thing in public or whatever. And old buddy, because he's on the basketball team, he has to maintain his image. So that's pretty much, the usual. When one guy wants to be public and the other guy is down low, but he really doesn't want anybody to know. So, the old cliche. After that scene, Tariq is seen sitting down with Diana, and, he's still incapacitated at this point, and Diana sees the gun in his bag, and she takes it, not looking. But this may work against her later on in the series. As she thinks she's doing good. She thinks she's getting the upper hand or whatever. As when she goes back to report this to Monet, and Monet is basically like, why would you do that? Because now he's going to see that the gun is missing. He's probably going to remember the last place he had the gun with you. And then, you're supposed to be getting him to trust you. And now this is going to cause even more distrust if he finds out that she did it. So, will that lead to, the kind of I guess you should say the downfall in their relationship, or whatever that they have or whatnot. Okay, so now Tariq is going off to the grave site under his incapacitated state. And he goes to the grave site of Raina. He talks to her a little bit, and then he goes over to Ghost, and I'm like, oh man, I know what's finna happen. He finna tell everything, and somebody gonna be recording him or something like that. So, of course, he was kind of telling. He didn't exactly say that he shot Ghost. He just said, I had to do it. He didn't say he shot anybody though, but he kind of implied it. But yeah, so Sax is off in the background because he has his location from the phone, and he's recording everything that he's saying. So I'm like, oh man, Reek, come on, what are you doing? But yeah, so that's gonna come into play later in the episode or whatnot. But anyway, Tariq wakes up the next morning, and Brayden is mad at him because when he was drunk, it was kind of mean towards Brayden or whatever. And Brayden's like, look, man, you got to tell me what's going on, because you be disappearing and you not telling me the full story, or where you be at when you be going away. So I need to know something. And then Tariq, so he finally tells him about his situation with the Tejada family and stuff like that. And then there was a chessboard or something, and he was like, okay, Monet is the queen, Kane is the rook, Drew is the knight, Diana is the bishop, or something along those lines. And then he says, if you ever come by and ask about me or something like that, and he said, knock one of the pieces down to kind of, it's a message between the two. And if it's just a straight emergency, knock over the whole chessboard. So they kind of course, they wouldn't have put that in there if something is going to happen. So at some point, one of them is probably going to confront Brayden, probably Kane, I don't know. But somebody's going to confront Brayden, and that's going to be their way of communicating when there's trouble. So we'll see what happens as far as Tariq and Brayden is concerned. But Tariq has peeled another layer of his fabric to Braden. So he's gaining more of his trust. In another quick scene, not much is explained. We see Braden's brother. He's going back into the frat house and he's getting a stash. There's a stash of drugs in the room. And he grabs like pills and weed and all that stuff like that. So is this Tariq's stash or Braden's stash or whatever? So we're gonna find out how that affects Tariq's business, because if that is a part of like Tariq's product or whatever, he's gonna come up short, of course. So we're gonna see what happens there. Also, Tariq is finally, he's back in regular state again, back at the Tejada family home, and Mo is questioning him once again about his loyalty. Why didn't you tell me about Drew? I kind of forgot the explanation that he gave or whatever, so I don't have really time to remember. And then she finally just asked him the question of who can I trust the most, and he said, "You can trust me." And then she's like, "Welcome to the family." And Kate is just like, what the you know what I'm saying? So this is creating even more friction between Monet and Tariq. So is Tariq gonna kind of take favor over Kane, or is Monet just kind of playing Tariq, just letting them get in, thinking that he is a part of the family? You know what I'm saying? It's like both of them are kind of playing each other. It's like a game of chess, so to say. But yeah, that ends there. And then we get towards the end of the episode where Sax, he has the video footage. He shows this to Davis. And then Davis is like, "Man, you can't even use this in court. This is inadmissible." But then they kind of figured that they're at a stalemate here. So at this point, they come up with a plan to get Tariq on the stand. And when they say Davis will do anything to win, he'll do anything to win. Now, keep in mind that Davis' client is not Tariq. It's Tasha. His whole goal is to get Tasha out of jail. And then his job is complete. It's not to do anything with Tariq. Tariq can go to jail for all he cares. So will we see Tariq in handcuffs? We shall see. But definitely this episode ended with a bang. I absolutely loved it. I can't wait for the second half of the season to appear in December, so we won't have to wait long. Now, there really was, I didn't see any preview after the end of the episode, so I really don't have anything else to go off of. But yeah, I think the second half is going to be good. I think Kane is going to be trouble, because he's getting fed up with the whole not being taken seriously, as far as not being able to run the family and just being seen as the enforcer. I mean, so we'll see what happens with that. That's kind of what I'm really interested in. How is Kane going to evolve as the season progresses? And also, of course, Tariq may go to jail temporarily, like Ghost did at best, but I don't see Tariq going to jail. So, but anyway, I don't know, man. I kind of want Tariq to win, though. I don't know what's going on with me, But other than that, let's see. I think Tariq's relationship with Diana is probably gonna decline, because he's gonna find out about the gun. So he's gonna start losing trust in her as well. So, and let's see. I'm trying to see. Also, you had the scene where Braden's brother, he was taking the drugs. So this might cause a problem for Tariq as far as coming up short on a product, which means short on money, which means problem with Monet. So that might cause a rift between those two on a business level. Tasha Tommy might make a surprise appearance. We haven't seen Tommy. We just seen his name brought up. I don't think they would bring Tommy up so many times just for him to not appear. So maybe he might make a surprise appearance at the end of this season. We shall see. Anything else I can come up with as far as my predictions? Carrie and Zeke, how is that relationship gonna come about? Well, I don't even think that's gonna be a relationship. That might just be a hit it and quit it. So if she goes for a second time, I was just like, man, I don't know. Jabari and plagiarizing Tariq's paper. So if this novel pops off, of course Tariq is gonna have to maybe get his hands on this novel at some point. It's gonna be like, man, you plagiarized my work. That's my stuff. And then he might have something over Jabari at some point, and he can use it to his advantage. I don't know, but what else we got? As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, I'm gonna call it. Jabari is gonna plagiarize. He's plagiarizing his paper. It's gonna cause this novel he's gonna be writing to be successful. And then keep in mind that Tariq may use this as a favor to get good grades or something. And the whole fellowship thing that you need to get early credit to graduate. I think he might use this as as a bargaining chip to get that fellowship spot. Maybe. I was thinking that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything as far as my predictions for the second half of season 1 of Power Book 2 Ghost. Y'all tell me y'all predictions. What do y'all see happening in the second half of the season? Did y'all like this episode? Are y'all still watching? Will you still cancel your Star subscription? Do you see more gay sex scenes coming in the second half? I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, this was a great episode. I will see y'all for the second half of Power Book 2. I will definitely be there to watch it. And that's it, guys. Peace out.
Bright light, city life, I gotta make it. This is where it goes down.